There we go. Hit the record button. There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Morning Brew. We're just going to get started here in just a moment. There we go. Yes. Okay, everybody. I'm very excited to bring you our first episode of Morning Brew. If you're joining us live, thank you for joining us live. If you're joining us on the replay, thank you for the replay. Let's start with the trailer, and we'll go from there. Welcome to Morning Brew. My name is Tony Morrow, and thank you for joining us here today. If you don't have the notification for the live, you'll be getting it momentarily. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome my good friend, Robyn Ashton. Robyn, who you will see here in a moment as it comes across the bottom of the screen, is a senior VP over at Snip Interactive, a good friend of mine, former instructor of mine, in project management and agile specifically. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today as we explore the topic of resiliency. Robyn, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited. It's always nice to work with you, and I love this concept, and I love talking about resiliency. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart.
Well, let's talk about that, resiliency. I think it's interesting because resiliency is something that is a bit of a catchphrase and a keyword that's used a lot lately. But what is it and what does it mean? So if we just look at the definition here, resiliency, oh, and of course, Robyn, I've got your thing there. Resiliency is the ability to recover from or adjust easily to adversity or change. And of course, adversity is another word we need to sort out, and adversity is a state or instance of serious or continued difficulty or misfortune. So keeping that in mind, it feels like this past year has been the poster child for adversity, especially for many, whether it's struggling with health, struggling with work, or just struggling with the day-to-day as being able to manage everything that's going on in the world. And so your ability to be able to adjust or recover from that adversity and adapt to the change and be successful is something that I imagine a lot of people are having difficulty with. I mean, from my own experience, you experience, or I experience a number of challenges from, work and family. But I guess the question is, when it comes to this, being able to adapt and adjust to it and be successful going forward, what kind of things are people experiencing in that context? For example, being overwhelmed or being anxious or being stressed. These are the things I think about. What's your perspective on the adversity we're facing and that word resilience?
So I think when I teach Agile, this is a concept I talk about a lot because Agile is all about change, isn't it? And Agile is all about a mindset that helps us be more adaptive to change. And one of the biggest things that I try to get people to think about is changing how you see change. And if we see change as something that's negative, it's obviously going to affect us in a different way. And if we see change as an inevitable potential outcome. And we all have to try and find ways to change our mindset about change so that we can see it as something that's inevitable and can be beneficial. And we talk a lot about that when we talk about Agile, because Agile provides a solution to change. And if we have a mindset that's resistant to change, or we use processes and tools that make change difficult to adapt to, it's likely that it will be something closer to adversity, something closer to something that's painful. But we can change that. That's something that we can work on as individuals.
Well, let's talk about that fear piece. Most people dislike change, I would imagine. It's sort of the new way of thinking, or sort of the modern mindset to be embracing change. Um, but when we think about fear and the anxiety and that sense of sort of trepidation about things being uncertain in the future, what what have you seen, or how have you seen that fear, that anxiety negatively impact students of yours or colleagues of yours in uh, whether it's in the workplace over the past year or in their lives? What kind of negative impacts have we seen, or have you seen, with that fear and that anxiety around change?
So typically in my workplace, where we see this is when clients come to us with changing requirements for a project, or when something happens on the tech side of our business where we have difficulty delivering on something. And typically when that happens, when people react negatively to that change, it's because they're looking only at something that's very far away, or they're looking only at a distant piece of the project. And that's where Agile teaches us to take things apart and to deliver incrementally. In that way, we can adapt more quickly to change, and we can pivot more easily. So we can adapt these tools and this mindset to make it easier for us to become change embracers than change resistors.
Can you? Because I'm thinking about when thinking about the hardship piece, the adversity piece. Because what we're talking about here is the the difference between your response to change and adversity versus perhaps another approach, which a lot of people know of, which is kind of like grinding through it. Um, I can think back. One of the criticisms some may lay at my feet is that I'm stubborn. And when I think back to my military career, there were many occasions where it was through pure stubbornness that I was able to succeed in environments where I was initially not successful. Yes, I perhaps adapted what I was doing, I learned, and I overcame those obstacles. Um, but it was the term grit that people use that allowed me to sort of survive the gauntlet of whatever it was I was going through at that time to be successful in the end. And there were some cases where I wasn't successful and I had to pivot into something else. Um, but the that contrast between grit, or that fortitude to be able to endure hardship and just keep going, versus what you are, I think, dialing into, which is that facing or encountering obstacles or change and then adjusting what you're doing to be successful on the other side. Do you have any, like, either from examples of how you've experienced this yourself, or maybe colleagues and friends that you know, but where do you see that contrast playing out?
So I have a story I love to tell about this. And I agree, grit is really that ability to withstand all of this and the courage and fortitude to just push through it. But I think resilience is a different animal, and it's really about how do we respond, and how can we have that fortitude to just stand up when the change happens and respond quickly to it. So I remember a few years ago, I set this big goal that I was going to do an Ironman. And an Ironman was something that I had no business doing. I'd only just started running marathons, and I was just learning how to do all of this. So I set this big goal, I assemble a team, and I start working towards this project. The inevitable outcome of that, I suppose it wasn't inevitable, but the outcome of that was that I had a DNF in Whistler. I did not finish my first attempt because there was a blizzard during that Ironman. So I came out of the swim. I'd had one of the best swims of my life, and there was a blizzard. I'm soaking wet. I'm not a large person, and I got hypothermic. I had to leave in an ambulance. So without a different mindset, that would have been very difficult to take. because you have your friends and your family there, you have various supporters there, and suddenly you haven't completed this race. And that's very embarrassing and very maybe perhaps shameful. But if you adapt more of an agile mindset, it's actually not that big of a deal, and I'll explain why. Because along the journey to an Ironman, there's a series of steps that have to occur. And when you have an agile mindset and you think about who am I elevating, who am I delivering service to? In this case, it was myself. I was my own customer. And I think about what does that customer value? What does that customer care about? How can I have empathy for this customer? And then I translate that into how can I deliver value to this customer early and often? So then my journey along the Ironman is different. I start to see these different things happening during the Ironman, these different value deliverables. You know, I completed my first Fondo. I did my longest road bike ride of over 200 kilometers, and I did that many times. I had a personal best in a half marathon. I had multiple open water swim races that I completed and had never completed before, even one that was 6 kilometers. And so when I got to that Ironman and that DNF, it wasn't that that was the only deliverable that I had out of the Ironman project and I'd failed. In fact, along the way, I'd had many, many, many successful deliverables. And so when I got to that place of the inevitable change, the resilience was really easy because I had so much success to fall back on, and it was so much less significant. And we see this in the world of project management when we compare waterfall project management and agile. If you only deliver at the very end of the project and that delivery fails, the risk of the project is significant, right? Because the project has just failed. But if you're delivering often during the project and you're delivering the things that matter most early and often, you've actually had tremendous success along the way. So if you have to make a pivot or a course correction, AKA be resilient, it's so much easier and so much less personally painful. And this is the mindset that we can take actually in our lives, because we are our own customer. Our families are our customers. Our coworkers are our customers. We can develop empathy for them. We can understand what moves and drives them. And we can have victories with them along the way so that when this change occurs, as we know it always will, it's so much easier for us to adapt to it because we have success to fall back on, and that success gives us strength.
It's really interesting hearing you talk about that, because the thing I'm latching onto is these early wins, or these little successes along the way that give you the positive feedback, as opposed to when you say waterfall, like the classic plan, 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 plan. I'm only gonna do what I plan to do, and then at the end of the cycle, it's like, I hope you like what I made because I planned the bejesus out of it, and if you don't like it, well, I'm devastated. And it in life, or at least, over the year that we've all experienced, and moving forward, it feels like, we're doing a lot of planning. We're doing a lot of thinking about how we're going to deal with X, Y, and Z, paying the bills and the mortgage, or finding that job, or being successful at work, or, whatever the case is. And when those things don't go according to plan, you know, a lot of us feel devastated by those losses. So in the context of resiliency versus grit, we're focusing on the resiliency piece. How can we be adaptive, responsive? How can we be flexible to be able to, encounter those bad things, those negative outcomes, those bad days, and still be in a good mindset, a positive attitude, and have success on the other side? What kind of, and I know we've been working on a project to kind of bring some of these nuggets to people's lives. And in the context of using perhaps the morning routine as an example, how, if I'm a person who is going through one setback after another, and I'm discouraged, I'm feeling overwhelmed by all the crap that's going on, whether it's, you know, challenges with the family, financial struggles, challenges at work. If I'm feeling overwhelmed with all these different things happening in my life, what can I start to do, or what kind of tactic or strategy can I start to employ to start giving myself some wins, to start putting myself in the right headspace, to start getting some wins on the board, some successes in life, and start feeling better and putting aside that sense of stress and anxiety and overwhelm?
I think the hard part about this is we all have wins happening. It's impossible that there are no wins happening. But what happens is we latch on to the failures, and that's just a normal human reaction. So we lose sight of the wins because all we see is the things that are not winning. So what I love to do in this type of situation is counsel people to start writing down all of these things that are in your mind that are causing you stress. Just grab them out of the mind, put them down on paper. And that gives your mind the freedom to say, I don't need to worry about this anymore because I know it's written down. And then once you have all these things written down, and that might take a while, carry a notebook with you, do it in your phone on Notepad. But however you do it, just keep grabbing them out of your mind. Develop a comprehensive list of the things that are causing you stress and anxiety. Then, once you have that list, have a look at that list. Take an attempt at prioritizing it. Say, what on here is the most important thing that I can resolve right now that's causing me significant stress? And prioritize that list so that you have it roughly in order of the things that are the most important for you to solve. And then what I love to do is if you have space at your home, take a space on that wall and put up some masking tape, make 3 columns: to do, doing, and done. And just on Post-it notes or however you want, write down that list, put them up on the wall, make it visual so that as you're walking by during your day, your mind knows that it's happening and it doesn't need to worry about it anymore. Then take the most important item, put it in the to-do column. Look at it and say, okay, I'm going to get this started. Move it over to the doing column, work on that item, and when it's done, move it to done. And do that for a few of these items that are causing you stress and leave them up in the done column. That will be a constant visual reminder of the victories that you're having over some of these insurmountable problems. And you'll be able to see that even if the to-do group is growing and there's more things coming out of your mind, you have a lot to celebrate in the done column. And if you keep using this practice, it really helps free up your mind from being stressed and worried that you're not taking action on things, from ruminating. And it can help shift your core beliefs and help give you that sense of victory by seeing all the things that you're doing in the done column. Leave them up for as long as you need so that you can celebrate them. When we talk about this in Agile, we talk about this concept of the information radiator. And the purpose of an information radiator is just to be there to radiate information outwards so that anybody who's walking by can have a look. If you're in a house with a family and you have other people that can rally around you and help support you, encourage them to look at your information radiator and make a contribution. Maybe there's things that you're stressed out about that other people can be helping with. And you can form a scrum of scrums or an agile team, and you can all work together to help deliver on some of these items. It can become a really collective journey. And I think that's another really important concept when we think about resiliency, is that when we're working with other people towards a goal, or we have other people on our team or in our camp, it's so much easier to be resilient. And we know this because diversity gives us strength. Everybody has weaknesses, and a team can round out those weaknesses. A good team will be stronger than all of those individuals working in isolation. And so the more that we can bring people together to work towards our shared goals, the stronger we'll be, and the easier it will be for us to adapt to change.
One of the things you identified there, so there was a lot there, but making sure that you write down the list of things that you've got on your plate. One of the things about that sense of overwhelm and that stress, that ruminations of those negative thoughts, is that kind of the insurmountable list of things that you've got to deal with, or the things that you're dealing with. They're so big and so impactful. And by writing them down and creating that list, you're kind of, you're making them more manageable. You're making them more easy to tackle. And then, like you say, putting that on that board that you're putting up on your wall and tackling them one at a time and slowly moving them from, the far left to the far right, or from one column to another, where you're being you're able to check off that box, so to speak, of that's a win. Um, and you get that sense of accomplishment of like, I did that thing is done. And and especially when you're trying to decide which thing to do, that you're putting the most important things to you, or whoever your quote unquote stakeholders are, who the people, the customers, the people important in your life that you're doing these things for, whether it's you and or other people, making sure that those things are being done first and moving them, or tackling them and moving them over to that far right column of the, we'll call it the win column or the done column. um, I think that's really huge. And the second piece there that I know I have experienced, and I imagine many of those listening and watching this today have different examples in their own life of teams, or the support network that they have, whether that's their family or the team at work or professional colleagues or communities of practice, whatever that may be. You've got that group of people that are contributing to your overall success, and they're there to help you, support you, reinforce your weaknesses with their strengths, uh, and allow you more flexibility in your ability to adapt and overcome these crazy obstacles that you're dealing with. Would that be a fair kind of summary of what you described there?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of this approach, is that sense of victory over the adversity, and that sense of power and strength of our ability to overcome. And
Hmm.
because that list is prioritized, as you work through it, the items that remain to be done are far less critical. So that even removes more stress. And it creates a situation where, for some reason, you have to abandon this project. The things that are left are the least critical things. You've already delivered the most value. When we think about how we're going to deliver value to a customer, ourselves, or somebody else, and we want to elevate that person, we talk about this concept of building a persona and really understanding what is important to that person, what are their behaviors, what do they care about, what pain are they suffering, how can we support and help them. It's almost worth it to take a moment and write down these things for yourself. Understand, what are my behaviors? What are my current pain points? What do I love and care about? And if you write down and document all these things, then it becomes even easier to make that prioritized list, because you can have a look at it and sort of get beyond the emotion of the situation. So perhaps that's even another valuable tool that somebody can use in this scenario. Take a moment to understand yourself. Take a moment to think about what drives you, what you care about, what your goals are, where you are in your life, and then use that to help prioritize these items.
And I think when you describe the persona, I think of like an avatar or character, or you know um, so many, whether it's on Facebook and you've got a kind of like a picture of yourself, not like a photo, but like some kind of cartoon version of yourself. So many of us now use stand-ins for our actual face in different kinds of social media. And so I'm thinking of that in the context of, you have this version of yourself that lives online or in other aspects of your life, and that avatar, that version of yourself, is like, uh, it has attributes and characteristics that obviously you're thinking about yourself when you create it, that persona. And so, in this context, understanding who it is, whether it's yourself or again those people around you, such as family, coworkers, colleagues, and so on, those people that you're doing those specific tasks for, or that they're the recipient of the benefits of those things that you're doing, um, to really get a sense of who they are, what their motivations are, what's important to them. And when I think about that, the accountability piece is a sort of a valuable nugget there, I think. The fact that, and many of us, whether it's like, New Year's resolutions, fitness, a number of different sort of criteria in our lives, where having accountability with other folks is important, as it adds to our success. It makes you further motivated to do those things. So when you're picking these things that are on your list, and doing those, and you are accountable, or you are doing them sort of in service of somebody else or other individuals above and beyond just yourself, the sense of the win that you get from that, not only for yourself that I did that thing, but that you're sort of adding that value in someone else's life, that you're doing that good thing for them, that you're having positive impact. It further reinforces that positive feedback loop of I'm doing good things, I'm creating, you know, positive outcomes, and I'm I, I'm winning, so to speak. You know, like you're getting those ticks in the box, and again, like bring this back to kind of where we started. This has been such a trying time for so many, and so many of us are stressed and overwhelmed, and in many cases, you know, having a sense of hopelessness around how do I move forward? How do I succeed? How do I win at this when I'm just losing? And you know, the kind of the map that you've laid out for us is this, you know, start by making a list of the things that you need to do or all the things that you're tackling. And then one by one, you pick the most important things based on whether it's the person you're serving, yourself or others, and the understanding the motivations and what drives that thing for, again, yourself or other people, and knowing what's the most important on that list. Tackle those things first. They'll give you the biggest sense of reward when you get them done. And as you work through that list, you're getting the big stuff done early. You're getting those wins in early. That'll make you feel a greater sense of accomplishment, a greater sense of success, the fact that you are winning. And then as you work down the list, the things at the bottom of the list are less impactful. And before you know it, you're at that point where, oh wow, I'm doing really well here. And you know, that starts to turn around that mindset. You start lifting that load off of stress. You're getting some clarity with that sense of being overwhelmed. You have a plan. You know how to be successful on those things that you've already done, and then you're actually making that happen. And I think as a strategy, as a tactic, as a way to start applying this word resiliency, you know, that ability to recover or adjust from adversity or change, this plan that you're laying out really is a way, even if you're stressed and overwhelmed and, you know, having a sense of hopelessness now, if you apply some of this today, you can start getting those wins and you can start recovering from the adversity. You can adapt to the change and you can start, you know, nurturing that positive mindset and getting yourself back on track.
Absolutely. And the most important thing there is we accept change. So we accept change is inevitable. And so once we have this list written down and once we have it prioritized, because we accept change and we embrace change, we know that at any point we can reprioritize that list. At any point we can add new things to that list. At any point we can remove things from that list. So it gives us a huge amount of control over the situation and a huge ability to pivot if we need to. And I also really want to call it again, you don't have to be alone in this. You can bring other people into this project, other family members, other people that live with you, if you're comfortable, people that visit your house. Show it to them, show them what you're working through, celebrate your victories. That's the most important part, is looking at that done column and seeing all of the success that you've had and celebrating that and taking a moment to honor that success, because that will help give you the strength to manage and be resilient.
Well, speaking about wins, I want to thank everybody for joining us joining us today. I can see the comments. Excuse me as I'm choking on myself here. I can see the comments. We had asked earlier where people are calling in from or watching the show from. And, you know, I can see New Minas, Nova Scotia. I'm probably getting that wrong, Ricky. I'm sorry. Denise from Toronto. We've got Mississauga, Chester Basin. My dog is joining us here right now, Loki. And And folks are talking about project management because, of course, when we're talking about this agile mindset, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about some of these tools that we know of come from the world of project management, and we're using this in this context to be able to bring wins in your life. This show itself, a project. This show itself today, a win. Thank you everybody for helping us make this first episode such a success. Robyn, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and these real nuggets that are going to be able to help people's lives. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today, Tony. Pleasure.
All right, everybody, we're going to roll the outro, and I want you to tell me what the most valuable piece of this show was for you. Was it the checklist? Was it the accountability? Was it building the team around you? What was the thing that was the most important for you, the thing that is most valuable for you out of this show? And of course, don't be shy. Let us know how we can make this better for you, because we're going to be making more of these shows as we go forward. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been a wonderful day. Episode number 1, Morning Brew.